When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was a stranger, you invited me in. When I needed clothes, you gave me something to wear. When I was alone, you took me in. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me.
Welcome to Change the Story, a podcast by Fostering Change Washington, where we bring real stories from those who know the child welfare system best, from children who've lived it to frontline workers, experts, and leaders fighting for change. Every day, innocent children are left suffering and abuse, their voices unheard, their lives at risk. This is more than a conversation. It's a call to action to stand for life and justice for those who cannot speak for themselves. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's change the story. Hi, friends. Welcome to Change the Story podcast. I'm Jessica Hanna, and this is a podcast through Fostering Change Washington. I'm here today with my good friend, Mike Johnson. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
I'm really excited for our listeners and viewers to take this journey with us. As you share, you have like such a good perspective on things. So can I just get you to start with, just tell us what you did after high school?
So I joined the Army on my 18th birthday.
Okay.
I had to get out. My dad's alcoholism was challenging for our family, and my grades had gone from A's and B's to C's and D's. And I knew I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't ready to do that. I had to sort some things out first.
Yeah.
And my experience as an Army Ranger was good for me. I became a Christian while I was in the Rangers,
Okay.
and did hard things, right? And became a man, in a lot of the classic senses of those words, and experienced a team and a bunch of good stuff, and never had to do anything that gave me nightmares, which is great, because that can happen.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and so having become a Christian while I was in the Rangers, I felt this calling to ministry, and got married and went to seminary and became a pastor.
And then what did you do after that?
Well, after 10 years of pastoring, my wife saw this opening at Seattle's Union Gospel Mission running their Pioneer Square campus, which Pioneer Square, for the viewers, is the epicenter of homelessness in Seattle. And she said, "You should do this. You'd be good at this." And she saw a bunch of things in me that I didn't know how to see in myself.
I love that.
Awesome.
I love that.
She's a great lady. And so for 18 years now, I've been specializing in helping people overcome addiction and homelessness, which is really about helping them do the work of processing their childhood trauma, because that's really underneath all of it.
Well, it sounds like you also experienced trauma as a youth, which kind of probably gave you more of compassion towards a lot of these people. Would you say, or I don't know? I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
So about 25 years ago, the Centers for Disease Control published a big study called the ACE study. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Yes, I remember when that was launched and taking that class.
Yeah, and it's these 10 terrible things that no one should have to experience while they're children, right?
Okay.
But they asked 17,337 people, huge piece of research.
Good.
About these 10 things, about physical abuse and sexual abuse and emotional abuse and physical neglect, emotional neglect, witnessing domestic violence, parental separation or divorce, substance abuse in the home, mental illness or suicide in the home, and an incarcerated immediate family member.
Right.
And participants got an ACE score of 0 to 10, depending on how many of those things they experienced. So I've got an ACE score of 2 or 3, depending on how you measure it.
Right.
And statistically, that predicts that, like, I might have some problems and some challenges, but I've got a decent shot at getting through them.
Right.
The data really starts to go bad at 4 and up. And as a specialist in homelessness, we see, like, every day, people with ACE scores of 8, 9, and 10. Like, imagine every single one of those bad things happening to you as a child.
Okay, so I want to stop for a second for people who don't know the ACE. Okay, so let's just review this real quick. So you get a score, and you said how many areas are they looking at?
Well, so they're looking at these 10 things.
Okay, so there's 10 things, and then you get a score between 0 and 10.
Yep.
Okay, and so the more like check marks you get on it, the higher up. And you said after 4, then you're looking at.
It starts to get really bad.
Okay.
So statistically,
Yeah.
a person's ACE score, like how many of those 10 childhood traumas they experienced, and I'll go through them again.
Yeah.
Physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, witnessing domestic violence, parental separation or divorce, substance use in the home, mental illness and suicide in the home, incarcerated immediate family members, like imagine experiencing every single one of those things.
Oh yeah. Your future doesn't look that great.
Holy moly, right? And so with every one of those, with every one ACE, right, in a person's ACE score, their likelihood of them experiencing homelessness as an adult goes up about 3%. So that when someone has an ACE score of 0, right, 99% of those people will never become homeless.
Okay.
Like they'll have medical bankruptcies.
Yeah.
They'll have foreclosures.
Right.
They'll experience unemployment. They'll lose jobs, but they won't become homeless.
Right.
But at an ACE score of 4, 11.1% of those people become homeless.
That's a huge jump.
It's 11 times.
Right. That's huge.
Right. And then by the time you hit 7 or 8, 7, it's at 27.3%. A fourth of those people.
Yeah.
And it just goes up from there. At 8, it's 33%. A third of the, it's crazy.
And then looking at foster care, I mean, kids have already had trauma and then get more trauma. So that's why we see so many foster kids on the street.
Oh, yeah.
I take just one question real quick.
Go ahead.
How long did you work with the homeless? Like you said, was it 8?
I've been doing this for 18 years.
18 years. So I would say you're an expert, right? And you've walked alongside, I'm sure, tons of people. Yeah. So, okay, I'm sorry. I just want to.
But at first it was really a big black box to me, so I'd come from being a pastor and I'd always tried to get my church involved in helping needy people. Right. And so we've been involved in poverty and also people come to church for help.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And yet I had never majored in the kind of addiction and brokenness that takes somebody to a decade of life on the street. And so I knew that I needed to learn some things. And so what I chose to do was to sit in the lunchroom and interview 100 of our guests.
I love that.
Yeah, before I did anything else, before I got to pass go or collect $200 or anything, right?
I love that.
I made myself interview 100 people, and over and over and over again, it was these stories of childhood abuse and neglect and trauma and foster care entry, like so much entry into the foster care system.
Yeah.
Or like one of my friends who is not homeless now and is currently sober, though he struggles with some mental health challenges. I've climbed a couple of mountains with him. He's a really compelling young man. When I met him, he was in his early 30s. Both of his parents were dead from their drug addictions. Yeah. He has an ACE score of 10. His mom taught him how to smoke meth when he was 12.
Yeah, that's a really common story. Yeah. Isn't that? Oof.
Yeah. And so we went to go see Instant Family together with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. That was a fun one.
This family that ends up adopting a sibling group out of foster care.
Right.
And on our way out of the theater, I asked him what he thought. And it was this long silence. And then he said, "I'm just trying to figure out why God didn't send anybody for me." All I could think of to say to him at the time was maybe God didn't have anybody to send. That's why we need to do this podcast.
Yeah.
Because
we do.
Because we need people in the community to understand what happens when kids don't get foster care that they need, or the foster care that they get is damaging. Right?
Yeah, it's garbage. Right.
Right. Because they get bounced around from place to place to place to place to place, and they never get permanency. And then they get returned to an environment where somebody teaches their kids how to do drugs. Like it's like
I know.
I've heard hundreds of these stories.
Oh,
I could do this.
Absolutely.
I could do this the whole podcast. I could fill with these stories.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying. And so like we need people to understand that we're currently breaking the next generation of people, half of whom are going to end up on the street. And so there's not a surprise to me when after I did all those surveys, and then I went and tried to find the research underneath it all and found that ACE study and all the attendant research along with it. It doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
that the states on the West Coast that have the biggest problems with homelessness also have the most broken child welfare systems.
Yeah. And right now, I mean, even if I feel like if the department wanted to remove a child, their options are really limited. I got a call from somebody just recently, and they said, "Hey, we're taking a kid away, and we're looking at a hotel stay again." And that was a big thing. Was it 2012-ish? I feel like that was all the research came out that we have nowhere to send these kids.
Yeah, because most of the people that historically have been involved in foster care
Mhm.
have been driven into that space because of their faith.
Yes, they have been.
They're Christians.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not all of them, but
But
most
yeah,
most
yeah.
of them.
Well, because that is like our foundational calling, right?
Yeah, the Bible says we're supposed to care about the widows and orphans. It's like
Absolutely.
Jesus's brother said, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is to care for the widows and orphans in their need and to keep yourself from getting polluted
Yeah,
by the stuff of the world.
I know.
And so like what the rescue mission does,
Yeah.
that I've had the privilege of running, it is really, we run this adult orphanage
Yeah.
for the,
Oh, I've never been. Yes.
yes, very much.
Right.
We run an adult orphanage
Yeah.
for these kids that have aged out of the foster care system
Mhm,
and become
mhm.
homeless addicts.
Right.
And more or less what Washington and Oregon and California have decided to do is murder them by leaving them on the street to die, and in the most cruel fashion imaginable, actually, covered in sores and riddled by diseases and alone. And
Yeah.
that's been the solution, and it just enrages me, right?
Yeah.
Because I've known a lot of people now who have come out of that when they got the help that they needed.
Yeah.
And we could be doing so much better by people who have beautiful souls, in many cases should be dead,
Right.
right?
Some
Have
of the-
tried to be dead.
Right. Right.
I've known a lot of people that have tried to be dead.
Yeah.
And yet they get up every morning
Yes.
and they try, as messed up as that trying
Yeah.
is.
But they're putting that foot forward. Like they're trying. Like that is huge.
Yeah, and that's the best they can do.
Absolutely.
And I'm not
Absolutely.
saying it's good,
Right.
not in any way. I'm not making excuses for it either.
Right.
Like, we as a society, we are not helping folks on the street by just leaving them out there.
And I'm
in
sorry.
the same way that we're not helping kids
Right.
by leaving them in their environments of abuse.
Because in my perspective, it doesn't do any favors to, like, okay, you're an addict. We're going to leave your kid with you, and then you're going to kill your kid. I mean, not saying everybody, but I mean, the research showing that these kids are dying. Mom, dad get high, kid gets into the drugs, dead. Now, when they come, let's say they get clean. We're not doing them any favors, because now they killed their kid. That would be something hard to live with now.
Yeah, sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop them from doing bad things.
Yeah.
So that they have less to be guilty for.
Right, right. So this whole thing that we have going in Washington right now, like, here, you want to be an addict? I'm going to give you a clean needle so you don't get a disease. I'm sorry, but I had a friend die in a public bathroom with a needle in his leg, right? His mother would have much rathered her son been in prison and away from that needle as much as possible than be dead on the street, right? Like,
yeah, proponents of what's called harm reduction, which is the dominant philosophy in the field I've specialized in for almost 2 decades now.
Yeah.
Proponents of harm reduction describe the people that I work with as if they are incapable of change, incapable of healing, and therefore the best we can do is try to reduce the amount of diseases they're going to get by giving them a clean needle or something like that. But I don't believe it anymore. I used to, because it doesn't actually make sense. Jail is the ultimate harm reduction.
Yeah.
Jail is the ultimate
Yes,
harm reduction.
it is. It is.
And yet these very people who will say, hey, we need to not just give clean needles. In Vancouver, British Columbia, they give them the drugs. It's called safer supply. Look it up.
Yeah. They're trying to do that in Washington.
It is
That's a new
mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. That's not loving people.
No, it's not. And
No.
it's certainly not reducing harm.
No, absolutely not.
So if you really wanted to reduce the harm that was coming to these folks, you would stop them from hurting themselves in the same way that theoretically we also used to stop people from killing themselves and committing suicide. These are just slow motion suicides out on the streets. But because they're not done with a gun, like then someone says that the immediacy threshold isn't met with the law, right? Which is just, it's all, and these I don't believe it anymore. I don't even believe that they believe it anymore. And what I really believe is that there are some people who need to feel good about themselves by helping the poor broken people some way, and therefore they need poor broken people to help. They need to rescue people, and they need to, because that lets them feel like a rescuer. And the reason I believe that now is because none of their solutions ever are solutions.
No.
They don't ever change anything.
No.
Everything just gets worse. I mean, you look at the child fatality statistics in Washington, and they just get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And like the first quarter of this year.
I was saying, we just looked at that.
They just did this report online right before our podcast.
So for 3 months of 2025.
The first 3 months of 2025 are tripled the same numbers of fatalities and near fatalities from the same period in 2024, which itself was an increase from 23, which itself was this massive increase from 22 and 21. And like, how many people have to die? How many people have to die on the street? How many people have to die in foster care? How many of them? And I now believe the answer is like, there's no top limit.
No, there's not. There has to be like a stop, right? Like we got to put our foot down. Like we have to stop. So my hope,
out of love.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of love.
Yes.
Like it is not loving.
No, it is
the
not.
Parents or the children
or
the homeless people.
No.
To just sort of manage the adverse childhood like experiences that we're all giving it, and just try to, hope it's not too bad or something. I don't know what. Like it is so the triumph of some ideology over like facts,
It is. So the ACE scores, you were telling me earlier that is like a huge body of research, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now is our legislation, is the department, do you see them using that?
No. So what happened with the ACE study is that schools sort of grabbed onto it because it's about kids. And yet, like, schools don't have really any ability to reach into the home life, right? They've just got the kids. And so the answer of the schools was, well, we can't do anything about these adverse childhood experiences. We can't, get involved in the family and get them to stop doing drugs or whatever, right? But we can help the kids be more resilient. In other words, we can strengthen the kids' ability to withstand all of this bad stuff, right? And so now, after 20 years of our public school system and all of the bureaucrats associated with it, having decided that children are resilient, and we can make them more resilient.
I hear that a lot. They're resilient. They're resilient.
That psychology and that reasoning has now found its way into the foster care system, where we don't need actually to do anything about adverse childhood experiences. We just need to make the kids tougher.
I hate that. That just breaks my heart. It makes me feel sick, because we did see that the most vulnerable kids, which this is just logic, 0 to 3 years old, this is when they're dying, the age they're dying the most, right? And I just imagine, I fostered many kids, I have 9 of my own, a granddaughter. Same.
Yeah.
And I just in my head, I'm holding one of my babies and then thinking, I'm going to give this child back to their birth parents to harm them. And I mean, if my children were born, let's just say in the last couple of years, they wouldn't have been removed from their birth parents. Now, this is nothing against my kids' birth parents. I love them dearly, but the fact is they could not raise them, and
They weren't positioned to
they
be,
were not,
to
and
do that.
and I know for sure, like one of my children would have been sex trafficked because the next child that came into that family was sex trafficked, exploited.
Sure.
And and I went to bat for that kid, and I was like, I'll be a safe home for that family, and they still chose. They had somebody else step forward, but you go down 4 years down the road, police do a drug raid and they're making child pornography,
Sure.
So.
And then that kid becomes a grown-up woman
Yes.
that eventually, hopefully,
Right.
comes into the Union Gospel Mission.
Yeah.
So nationally, 1 out of 3 American women report childhood sexual abuse of some kind,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We, in the ACE screenings that we've done with our people over the last 18 years, 94% of the women that we 94%, like literally,
That's bad.
there is almost no woman who experiences homelessness and addiction
That hasn't been sexually abused.
that hasn't been sexually abused as a child.
Okay.
Like 94% of them report childhood sexual abuse.
Okay.
I told you about my friend whose mom taught him how to smoke meth when he was 12. I climbed with another guy who, when he was 11, the apartment manager came to him and said, "Hey, your single mom hasn't paid rent in 90 days, and I'm going to evict your family unless you come visit me once a week."
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
That boy kept his family housed by trading his body to a sexual abuser for 5 years. So, he started drinking when he was 12. That's the average age, by the way, of the people that I work with. The average
is 12?
Is 12. The average age of onset of their substance use is 12. I literally know a guy here in town who started smoking pot when he was 8. He got the pot from his uncle. But back to my friend who was housing his family with his, by voluntarily submitting to sexual abuse. Like, what does that do to somebody? He started drinking when he was 12, started smoking pot when he was 13, found pills when he was 14, heroin when he was 15, ran away when he was 16. How do you think he paid for his heroin on the street?
I know.
Yeah. And so the kids that don't die, something in them dies too. Thankfully, I believe in a God who can raise the dead. And I feel like I've seen it over and over and over again. And I'm so grateful, right, to have seen it over and over again, because the badness in the world is pretty bad. And when you're specializing and working with folks whose brokenness is so severe, right, that the best they know how to do is find an overpass to sleep under, right? Like that, and that's the best that they know how to do, right? When you're working with those folks day in and day out, it is a trip to the dark side.
I can't imagine.
Darkness can't drive out light.
No, it cannot.
It
cannot.
And so like I've seen God do incredible things, and it's become unacceptable to me as a person that there are some people we have just chosen to write off, because God doesn't make disposable people.
No, he doesn't.
There's not one person that he doesn't want.
That's so
doesn't want
to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly hopeful to me. And because he's God, right? And as God, if there's anything he can do, he will, right? And I've seen him. I've known people who jumped off bridges and broken both of their legs but lived. Who've like run in traffic to try to die.
God's like not today.
Like exactly. And here's another story. I met a guy. One day I was giving a tour in Pioneer Square to a friend that I'd gone through Pepperdine with in grad school at Pepperdine, and we met this guy. It was about 2 in the afternoon, and he'd come in late for lunch, and the staff had gone ahead and seated him anyway and gotten him some leftovers, And my friend was looking at something over on the wall, and so I just introduced myself and talked to the guy, and his hood was up, and he was very clear, like he wasn't all that interested in talking too much. So I told him about what we did there and the offerings that we had to help him.
Yeah.
And 8 months later, I'm talking to this guy from who's in our addiction recovery program, and he says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And he was that guy.
Really?
Right? And then he tells me the rest of the story. He had planned to jump off of Vic Steinbrook Park in downtown Seattle, which at that time would have given him a 4-story fall onto the Alaska Way Viaduct that doesn't exist anymore, which is a freeway, an elevated freeway.
Yeah.
So his plan was, if the fall didn't kill him, then the cars would just run over him, right? And that way he would die. And as he's there at the edge,
right,
he hears this voice in his mind saying, "Even condemned prisoners get a last meal."
He came to you.
And so he came for a last meal. And the staff, even though he was late for lunch, right? The staff still seated him and were nice to him. And the boss of the place introduced himself, and so he didn't jump.
I love it.
And he came back. And and so like God does not make disposable people. Yeah. But we have to learn how to stick up for these folks that are too broken to stick up for themselves.
Right.
And that includes parents. When like the parents of kids that need the state to intervene, right? Are themselves parents who almost certainly grew up with big ACE scores, right? Like they grew up with parents who were super broken, and now they're parents and they're broken. Shocker. Like exactly, right?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer to us.
Yeah, and so like this is the cycle, and yet, right? Even though the ACE study is as close to settled science as social studies gets, because it was done by doctors in the Kaiser Permanente health system in California.
Okay.
I mean, it's really, really valid. And it's been totally embraced by the medical community, right? And twisted by everybody else, basically. And then unless it's ignored, so even though we know what creates this kind of brokenness, and we know the consequences of it. Remember, if you have an ACE score of 0, the likelihood that you will be homeless is 1%.
Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't matter if you're an illegal immigrant or if you have don't have a high school diploma or whatever, 1%, right?
Yeah.
And so we know, and even though we know it, and even though our child welfare systems are supposed to be intervening in extreme cases of childhood adversity, they aren't.
Right.
And they're creating the next round of parents who will harm the next round of children. And it just is so heartbreaking to me because I then have to pick it up on the back end.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this way.
No, it doesn't. So what would you say for, our listeners who maybe this is the first time they've heard about what is happening within the foster care system, the ACE score, and they're compelled. What do I do?
Well, what I would say to them is, of course, it's likely that you're not following how many kids are dying in Washington because they've been returned to addict parents, right, who then let them get exposed to drugs. It's also not surprising that those of us who do follow it don't have all the data because the government literally splinters the data.
It does.
On purpose so that each set of it seems smaller. If you pulled it all together, I mean, so we talked about CPS data or DCYF data and how it's tripled in the first quarter of this year. That's just one data source. That's only for DCYF reportable.
Yes.
Exactly. It's only for some small subset. And so it's not surprising that it's hard for people to know about this stuff because it's made hard to know about on purpose by the people that run it. But everybody sees homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they see a homeless person in the street, they feel the distress They feel distress for this person because
Yeah.
out of sheer human empathy. They also feel the distress of a tax-paying citizen who doesn't want chronic homelessness in their streets, and yet nobody ever seems to do anything about it, right? So they feel that distress too, and it's just so frustrating for like everybody. And they don't know what to do, and nothing that they do seems to change anything.
Right.
So what I would say to them is, like, when you see someone on the street, what you're seeing is a grown-up kid of trauma. And if you want to make this better, then get involved with organizations like Fostering Change, and let's start heading off the childhood trauma at the beginning.
Right.
That we know means half those folks that don't get interventions while we can do something are going to end up on the street.
Yeah.
And it will take a generation. Sadly, right? It will.
Absolutely.
But maybe you can't seem to get anybody to do anything about homelessness because these aren't very sympathetic figures.
Right.
Everybody, is sort of mad at them because they're bad behavior, and I get it. But my goodness, like a 3-year-old dying from fentanyl exposure should be a pretty sympathetic figure.
And Mike, I'd like to say that the exposure to the drugs is it's
only a subset of
yes,
exactly.
It's a subset because we have a young lady. She was 3 or 4. I might botch this right now because this was really personal to me. I recruited her foster family. I'm going to call her B for the sake of,
sure.
For
yeah,
her.
absolutely.
I'm going to call her B. And she went back to her birth parents, even though a lot of the services weren't taken care of. They didn't participate in them. CPS was called for a year. There was no oversight. They didn't come back and check on this. Now, again, it could have been, there's so many reasons why they, can't go back. B ended up in the ER, dropped off. And not only was she covered in burns, she's been starved, right? She was like the size that she was when she was young, like little. She was all bones. And then when the report came out, she also was raped. I believe she was 3 or 4. That is unacceptable. And that, again, is one case that is really personal to me, but there are so many.
Well, it should be unacceptable. It's unacceptable to you, right?
It should be unacceptable to everybody.
It's unacceptable to me.
Absolutely.
I've become, now that I've known, become true friends with and had great adventures with and seen people get well, like hundreds of folks come off the street. It's become something that makes me really mad that we don't seem to care whether these people live or die. It actually makes me mad now. And it should. I think one of our problems is that we're not made angry by the things that make God angry.
Yeah.
And things that make us angry are somebody's, driving too slow in the parking lot.
And that's just
right.
In the grand scheme of things, who flipping cares?
Right. But in the meantime, we're not made angry by things like this happening to be, where we sort of have become cynical.
Yeah, we are. I do have some things that I'm thankful for that are starting to show a little bit of a change in Washington state. That is, our news cover. We have news reporters that are covering this again, because when I heard about B, that was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I started picking up the phone with people that I worked with before that were great journalists. And they are like, we're not touching that. Nobody cares.
See, and it should be the kind of thing that a law gets named after.
Absolutely.
Like let's call her Beatrice, right? It should be the Beatrice law, right?
Yeah.
And we used to do that.
We did.
We used to care about children and what happened to them.
Yeah.
When did we stop? When did we stop caring about children and what happens to them?
Right.
By just deciding they're resilient.
Right. So on the law side of it, when Fostering Change, when we came together in 2017, in 2018, we were able to, you might remember this. So do you remember we used to have CPS, we used to have early childhood education, the juvenile system. This is when everything got passed and we merged, right? Under one umbrella called DCYF. Now the whole
Department of Children and Youth, Children, Youth and Family Services. Yeah.
And so the hope was, because I was like, we were there. We remember it, and we were so hopeful. I mean, the whole idea was when the kids are in early learning, right? When they're really young, the most vulnerable, the ACE score, when we were like, this kid has a high ACE score, the whole point was to kind of flag that kid and get them the services and wrap around their family to keep them ultimately out of the juvenile detention center, right? Like that was the goal. One thing that was amazing that got passed was the oversight board. So there was an oversight board that is supposed to oversee DCYF. Now, in the last 7 years, I just listened. I went away for 5 years, right? So then I kind of come back to the scene, and I'm finding out what happened. What happened to this wonderful piece of legislation, right? That we were so excited about. What happened to it? So I listened to the last board, the review. Anybody can get on it. It's on DCYF oversight board meetings. You can listen. Here, 7 years later, one of the chief concerns is they have no teeth. They have no course of action. So the ombuds reports to them. So the ombuds collects all the death and all the childhood deaths, puts together all the reports. They report it to the oversight board, right? Early childhood.
And then crickets chirp.
And crickets chirp. Absolutely. And that's one of their biggest complaints. Ruth Kagi, she was wonderful at really getting, at really championing to have this merge of all these programs in hopes that we can get kids, to reduce the ACE scores, right? That kind of, and she's even on there, and she's like, what?
I can explain this.
Okay, please do. Please do. I love this. Please.
Yeah, well, it's actually pretty simple, believe it or not. These 10 things, these ACEs, right? These adverse childhood experiences of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect. Just for the viewers, going to do one more time. Parental separation or divorce, witnessing domestic violence, substance abuse in the home. Mm-hmm. What are they? They're behaviors.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
They're a thing somebody's doing, right? And some other people aren't doing. Right. And if those other people don't do it, right, then you have kids with a score of 0 and only 1% of them become homeless, right? And so what the ACE study did was it definitively showed the linkage between parent behavior, right, and child outcomes.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
And so,
sorry, that blew my mind.
So what that means is that these outcomes are tied to the behaviors of these people, right? And so that is a fundamentally traditional American message. Hey, everybody, if you do these things, your life is better. If you do those other things, your life is worse. Right. Now choose to do better things, right?
Just do better.
Well, because, that's a traditional American message, right? And what has happened is that it's run into the brick wall of the systemic racism, systemic whatever ideology, right? And so I sat in a meeting in downtown Seattle and listened to a guy explain that of course we see all these homeless people in downtown Seattle because of the intrinsic inequities of global economic capitalism, and until we overthrow our entire economic system and deal with the systemic causes of homelessness, we'll never see anything different than what we're already seeing. Well, if you believe that, what you're not going to do is try to get people to maybe stop doing drugs and embrace the fact that they're a beautiful human being that God has wonderful plans for, and do the hard work of healing through their childhood trauma and do the behaviors, right? Like take the actions that will make their lives better.
Right.
People who do that, do well. The Union Gospel Mission in Seattle has this year-long recovery program. Okay, I want the viewers to understand this. a year-long addiction recovery program. Most drug and alcohol treatment is what? 30, 60, 90 days, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a year-long recovery program because of the depth of the trauma that people have to work through. People who graduate from that recovery program are still clean and sober 1 year later at 80%.
Wait, you need to say that again.
80% of the people who graduate from this year-long recovery program
80%.
after spending a decade on the street.
Wow.
And yes, with an ACE score of 10.
Wow.
80% of them are still clean and sober a year later. That compares to 17% for traditional 30, 60, 90 day drug and alcohol treatment programs.
Okay. Can I have
17.
I got a question for that. The Union Gospel Mission, is that something funded by the government? Like, is that one of our state programs?
No.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Because generally speaking, Union Gospel Missions or whatever it's named in your town, right?
Okay.
Like in Tacoma, it's the Tacoma Rescue Mission.
Okay.
Generally speaking, these are Christian ministries
Okay.
that are funded voluntarily through donations.
Wow.
And so there's 70,000 donors that donate to the Union Gospel Mission in Seattle, and it doesn't get government money for a couple of reasons.
Right. But 80%?
Yeah.
Like, that's working.
That's a pretty compelling statistic, right? And so like people can get better.
Right.
More people are capable of more healing than most people will give them credit for. And so the ACE study, like sort of demonstrates that, right? Like, like people get broken through these caregivers' bad actions and behaviors. Maybe we could try to help them do less of that, and we'd have less brokenness. Maybe we can help people heal from that too, right?
Right.
But if you boil it all down to, well, it's just systemic stuff, right?
That doesn't make me feel moved to do anything.
Well, no, yeah. Number one, it doesn't make you feel moved to do anything, except caretake a little bit and do this harm reduction stuff. And so what's happened, right, is that we got definitive evidence that bad parental behaviors, right, hurt children.
Right.
That harm is associated with measurable increases in adult outcomes or negative outcomes, right? Like, and not just homelessness. That's just the one stat. Like it's all kinds of stuff. Like ACE scores correlate with employment. They correlate with psychosis. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? All kinds of stuff, and physical health outcomes.
Oh,
yeah. Like kids that grow up under this massive amounts of stress, they have higher incidences of type 1 diabetes, for example, because it's an autoimmune disorder. Their bodies are so stressed out that their immune system just starts shooting anything that moves. And then they kill their own pancreas's cells that make insulin, right? And so kids' ACE score correlates with diabetes.
Wow.
Yeah. Or prevalence of diabetes, at least. And so we know this. And we know it, and we know like what we can do about it, and we're not. And we're not because it would put the lie to the idea that what's really going on here are these systemic problems, and
these people are just oppressed.
And these are just oppressed people.
Right.
And because they're oppressed people under these systems of oppression,
right,
that means that actually holding them accountable for bad behavior and supporting them to do better behavior, well, that's just more oppression, or it's just trying to make them, be white or something. I've heard all that too, right? And so even though we know,
right,
that we're harming children and that those children are going to grow up to become our next round of drug addicts and homeless people and criminals, we're not doing anything about it because it's run into the brick wall of this oppressive, ideology, and that literally denies the knowledge that we have. And it's just so pernicious. It is so pernicious. What it does to people is so cruel.
I'm sure.
I'm sorry.
Please. No, please go ahead.
Just the one thing about it that I think that it does that is the most cruel
Yeah.
this ideology does to people in these scenarios, right? That is the most cruel, is it says to them, you can't actually do anything.
Yeah.
Because you are a helpless victim of these large systems of oppression.
Mm-hmm.
You really are helpless. That is, I can't think of a more vile and wicked message to send to someone in adversity. Yes, your parents are doing drugs and they beat up each other and they beat you up and then they pimp you out when they need to make some extra money for drugs. Oh yeah, I've heard like there's that, all that too.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? You really can't actually do anything about it. Like
Toughen up, kid.
I mean, why not just hand people loaded guns to shoot themselves with?
I know.
Because if they're under that kind of system, and you're going to tell them there is nothing that can be done, suck it up, Buttercup, because it's really the system, and it's not anybody's individual behaviors that could actually change or be different. You are literally encouraging people to just kill themselves. Why wouldn't someone OD on drugs? Why wouldn't someone jump in front of a bus? Why wouldn't someone?
They need hope.
Absolutely. And you've just taken it away. Like that. And that is the cruelest, most vile and wicked part of this message. That it's not adverse childhood experiences. It's not bad parental behavior. It's really these systems of oppression. That is the cruelest part of it, is to remove hope from everyone in this situation.
Absolutely.
There's really isn't anything you can do about it until we overthrow Western civilization or some ridiculous thing that's never going to happen.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
Yeah, what I find really fascinating is there was this guy in the 1960s at Berkeley, of all places, in the 60s. Named Karpman. The Wikipedia article on the Karpman, two N's, Karpman drama triangle is so fascinating, in which he says a lot of times people end up in this triangle of a human system where there's a bad guy and a victim and a rescuer. And it's actually a really stable system. And because the victim learns that by not actually fixing my problem, not actually trying to make my life better, by just saying, hey, that bad guy's victimizing me, I'm not actually responsible for anything anymore, right? So the victim gets to be innocent. The bad guy gets to be powerful. Yes, everything really is my fault because I matter that much, and then the rescuer gets to be righteous, because they're the one who's coming in to take up the cause of the victim. But the rescuer never fixes the victim's problems because then they'd be out of a job. Right. And this is what Karpman says, right? And so family systems can take on this dynamic, but any human system at any scale can do this, right? And so, like, I think like this was what Karl Marx was saying, like, hey, those oppressor factory owners, the rich guys, those rich fat cats, the bourgeois, they're taking advantage of you, the proletariat worker. But we rescuers, the revolutionaries, we're gonna. But did communism ever actually fix the plight of the poor worker?
We have history on our side. We can look.
Oh, there's a lot of data.
There's a lot of
data, right? That communism never fixed because all that happened is that the rescuers became the next oppressors.
Absolutely.
And then the next rescuers, right, were the dissidents. And so like the system carried on.
It does.
And so what worries me, right, is that we're with homelessness or with child welfare, because hopefully I've made a pretty good case by now
hand in hand.
that they're the only thing that is different about homelessness and child welfare is time.
I was just going to say age.
They're just separated by age. So hopefully I've made a pretty strong case for that. What I worry, right, is that on the left coast, at least, that our systems that are dealing with both of those things have decided to take this sort of quasi-Marxist, which really just Karpman drama triangle approach to understanding these poor people, these poor victims, right? And And what we do when we're working with people out on the street is we say, God loves you.
Absolutely.
He's got a great plan for your life. And you know what? We love you because we've taken the time to get to know you
Yeah.
and hear your story. And we actually believe for better for you, you know, and even if you don't, and it's that actually that gets people to consider, okay, maybe I could change, not because I know how to change, but because maybe those people will help me.
And the big guy upstairs.
And that guy will,
You know, like,
yeah, exactly. And so when you're trapped in that kind of a situation, telling that person, yeah, it really does suck to be you because you're just the victim of major oppressive systems and that are never going to change without some massive social revolution that's never going to happen. Let us, let us know when you die, and
right.
you know, like telling people that
right.
is just brutally cruel, right? But saying to someone, look, you have been victimized. There really are victims in the world.
Absolutely.
But you're not a victim.
No.
You have been victimized.
Yes.
But you are not a victim. You are not this powerless victim of large oppressive systems. Though oppression occurs too, it's real, right? You are a human being made in God's image who has the capacity to make choices.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes making the right choice is really hard. It is for me too.
Yeah, I was going to say, me, it's really hard. Yeah.
It is. It is for all of us.
Right.
But I know someone who loves you and wants to help you.
Yeah.
And has already paid all the price for all the bad stuff. In fact, he sent me out here because
make me cry again.
Because he doesn't make disposable people.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
And and that message, that has to be what we're bringing to kids in adversity.
Yes.
Like it doesn't just suck to be you. Too bad, so sad. Be resilient. Like, no, like you have infinite value and worth.
Yeah.
And the thing that worries me the most, right, is that by adopting this drama triangle, quasi-Marxist kind of way of looking at the world, particularly as it relates to homelessness and child welfare, it is that those three positions, right, they're not overlapping. Like if I'm the rescuer, right, like I don't actually have anything in common with the victim.
Right. Okay.
And so what that means is that the victim is wholly other. What happens to those kids, I would never allow to happen to my kid. But they're not my kids. They're not even real humans. They're placeholders.
Oh my goodness.
They're victim placeholders.
Yes.
This will maybe make some people mad, but I really do believe that at an earlier time, in maybe in my parents' time, right? Which was a time when there were a bunch of other things that were broken, right?
Right.
My dad graduated from high school in 1957. He grew up in Beaufort, South Carolina, under Jim Crow. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So during that time, there were a bunch of other things that were messed up. But like someone would have gone into that dang house and taken that kid out of there.
Yeah.
And not allowed them to get beaten and sexually abused and exposed to drugs.
I know.
And die.
Yeah.
Like they would have said no. And they would have gone in there and would have stopped it.
To me, that's logical. Like that's
absolutely. Because people understood, like, if we become a people who allow that to happen,
right,
we ourselves are lost.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
They understood that. Like if we become a people who just go to children being killed,
yes,
right, then we ourselves are lost. And there were things about themselves and human systems at that time that needed to change, right? And many of them have changed in good ways. Are they done changing? Probably not. I have 7 black kids, right?
Right.
And are they done changing? No. But have they been greatly improved?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. They have. Like my family wouldn't have even been legally possible when my dad graduated from high school.
Never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so are they better? Yeah. Are they all done getting better? No. That said, it worries me immensely that by choosing this system of viewing the world, right,
Mm-hmm.
that everything is really about the interplay between the oppressor and the oppressed and the rescuer,
Right.
that we've reduced all humans to placeholders in this system. And we've become okay with the incapacity to actually really help these people in need, in some ways, maybe because we need them to keep being needy, or else the system isn't complete, right? And then
Yeah.
we're not righteous. But in some other ways, just because they're not really fully human. We would never allow this to be done to our own child, but you're going to let it happen to somebody else's kid.
Mm-hmm.
You're a terrible human being.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Like,
No, I
I'm sorry,
agree.
that makes
I
somebody
agree.
mad.
Because when
But my boss told me to love my neighbor as I love myself, and that means I have to actually care about other people's children too, and not just my own.
yeah. Well, you're taking me back to slave days. We're back there. Like
Yeah,
when we're
absolutely.
dehumanizing, you know,
Absolutely.
if we're just saying it's okay to leave children in these
Yeah,
environments.
it's as if the children of families with high levels of adversity are merely 2/3 of a human.
Right. Right. That is
Yes,
not okay.
It is, yeah, and it is not okay.
No, it is not.
It's certainly not acceptable to me. And if I spend my one life
Yeah.
trying to say to my community, God does not make disposable people,
No,
and we don't get to live that way.
we don't.
And if that's how I spend my life, then I think that's about as good a life as I know how
I
to
think so.
spend.
I think so.
But like I'm here right now, and I've
Yeah.
accepted this invitation because I want to raise the alarm bell
Yeah.
that says we are becoming a people of seared consciences. We are
Mhm.
becoming a people who are lost. We are becoming a people who themselves cannot bring themselves to go into the damn house and take the kid out who's getting beaten and sexually abused and killed by their parents, like for the good of everyone, including the parent.
Oh, thank you.
And
Yes,
we are
thank you.
allowing people to do to other people's children what we would never allow to do to our own children.
Nope.
And it is destroying our own consciences.
Yeah.
And we have to correct this, not just for the sake of these children, not just for the sake of these parents, but for the sake of our own souls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're becoming lost. If we want, if anybody watching this podcast, like wants America to be a better place,
Yeah.
like it is going to have to start with our own consciences, with our own souls,
Yeah.
and with understanding that we cannot become a people
No.
who say, well, I won't let that happen to my kid, but your kid's just screwed. Like that. We will become a wicked people
Right.
under those circumstances. And whatever America we're left with at that point, like,
Right.
don't be surprised when
You
it's
reap-
bad.
You reap what you sow.
Yeah, I mean, I just watched some, like, because now everybody's got these phones, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, I just watched some video of some, like, people getting beaten by a mob in Cincinnati. Yeah,
yep.
and so
That's insane.
well, sure, because like it was these in the video, it was these couple of older people getting beaten up by a mob of younger people,
Right.
and just stomped on and and kicked on the ground, and there are racial dimensions to the video as well, and of course we don't know what happened before then,
Right.
but what we do see in the video is the people making the videos
Yeah.
going, whoa, oh, as if it is entertainment, right?
Absolutely.
To beat up and hospitalize old people.
Yeah.
Whatever America we're going to be left with after we sear our own consciences by deciding that there are some people that are just disposable because they're really not fully human, they're maybe 2/3 of a person. That America that we're left with is not going to be one that any of us want to live in or raise our children in.
No, it's not.
And so, like, we have to
Mhm.
get back to a place where we go in the house and we help the kid and we say, no, you don't get to do this to children.
Yeah.
You don't get to do this to children. No. Make different choices. We will help you make different choices. In fact, I know these ministries or these other services,
Yeah.
right, that will help you, but we're going to require you to make different choices. And we're going to make sure that we know that you are safe before we give these kids back to you.
Yeah.
Because they're the next America.
Amen.
Right?
They are.
And people used to know that. And the only explanation I have for how we've forgotten it is we've literally redefined how we think about society, and now it's all the systemic things, and therefore any individual behaviors don't really matter.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, how's that working? Well, not well, but really, really, really not well for the dozens of children that are dying
Yeah.
because our own government is giving them back to active drug addicts in the name of equity.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so it's really not working well for them. And then the ones that live have ACE scores of 7, 8, 9, and 10, and a third and a half of them will become homeless. And
Yep.
and then we'll all be so mad about the homeless, right? My goodness.
As you're talking about like the triangle and everything,
Uh-huh.
you know what direction that goes? It's a swirl, like
It's
flushing
just-
down the toilet.
Oh, yeah.
When you're saying that, like all I can think of is
It's
like
a closed loop.
it
Yeah,
is, and it just goes
absolutely.
down. It goes down. One thing that's been really concerning for me, I'm trying to think when it got passed, but it's House Bill 1227. That is one of our biggest issues right now from the legal standpoint. That's kind of tying everybody's hands down where they can't do anything. And have you familiar with that at all?
No. So
Okay.
tell me about it.
Okay, so it sounds amazing, right? Keeping families together,
Well,
right? Okay.
who doesn't want to keep families together?
I know, it sounds
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean,
Except when it kills children.
well, but see, okay, so I have to say, they didn't know the unforeseen consequences of this bill when they signed it because this was bipartisan.
They should have, because the ACE study is 25-year-old data. They should have. And if they did not, like if they signed a bill about childhood adversity and what we do when we're confronted with high levels of childhood adversity,
yeah.
high enough levels that maybe we have to consider removing a child from their parents,
Yes.
that's a pretty big deal, right? Like, because a parent's relationship to their children is a sacred thing. Like, it's a pretty big deal, right?
yes.
When the government has to take someone's child away,
Mhm.
like, that's a really bad situation. And so if they're considering what should be the laws governing when we take a child away from their parents with the force of government,
Mhm.
right? And they're considering that law, and they're not taking into consideration like this enormous body of data about what happens to kids when they're left in situations of really severe adversity, then that's just malpractice.
You
Like-
are simplifying so much in my head right now. Like
Like they should have. Like, I could have told them exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because for 18 years, I've been picking up the pieces on the other end.
yeah.
And the data's all there. Like, and if they're going to claim that, oh, we just had no idea that if we ignored all the ACEs,
Right.
that the children would be harmed, then you suck.
Yeah. Listening to you in my head, I'm thinking, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer.
Like, as a lawmaker, you suck.
Yeah.
Like, because your job is to make sure that you know this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they do. And this is why I'm saying I don't believe these people anymore. Because they know about the ACE study, but what they've done is they've compartmentalized it by saying, "Oh, kids are resilient; they'll get over it."
You're right.
And now we
You're
can
right.
entertain this other way of thinking about the problem, which is systemic stuff.
Yeah.
And so now we can make a new law about keeping families together instead of that horrid, nefarious family separation, which we used to call saving children from death. You know, and now we can do that because we found a way to make all that knowledge that
Yeah.
is really accepted knowledge and really deep amounts of data about how child abuse affects kids.
Right.
You know, we made it all go away, and we figured out a way to make it go away so we don't have to take it into consideration.
Mm.
And then when reality comes home, because it does, because that's
Yeah.
why we call it reality, then we're like, we had no idea. Yes, you did. I don't even believe you. Yes, you did. You had every idea. And if you didn't, then you truly do suck. But I don't believe it. No, people don't get elected to the because they're dumb. They're
You're right.
bricks.
You're right.
They might be fools sometimes, but they're not dumb. Like they know about that stuff, and somebody's told them about that stuff, and they've heard it, but they've compartmentalized it. I've stopped believing them. I've just stopped believing them. I now have come to the belief that It's not that they don't know about this stuff or that they couldn't have known.
Yeah.
It's that there's this way of thinking about the world that has empowered them as the rescuers of the victims from the oppressors, and that makes them such righteous and good people, and they never have to actually do any of the heavy lifting.
Right. I mean, I have to say, like,
It's
hearing
like
you.
righteousness for free. It's like thrift store righteousness.
Yeah, as you're talking too, like these ideals that are being peddled by our government, I have fallen prey to those thought process too. I definitely can say the first time when we were fighting against, we had with fostering change, we had some people that were very upset about what we were doing, and we kept hitting a wall, and I just couldn't. I didn't know what that wall was, because to me it was just common sense. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
of course, if we show the data to these folks, they're going to say, "Oh, thank goodness we didn't know about this."
But they did. Yeah.
But I don't believe them anymore.
Yeah. I love.
And that sounds horrible. I feel horrible for saying it.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should be. I feel like your life experience and the cycles that you've seen. We have another gentleman coming on. He has done 50 years of advocating for foster parents and foster children, and he's being pushed to the side because the young people, they know better. They know better because they have a new view of the world, right? And he has kind of an older view of the world, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. The DCYF just did the oversight board. So we had, family services. They came in and they were rolling out their safety plan that they're going to start pushing. And literally, here's the safety plan. They're going to start giving parents safe boxes for their drugs so their kids don't get into it. And I'm thinking, have you ever been bowling and when you have little kids and you put little bumpers on there? So every time they throw a ball, they're getting a strike.
Sure.
No, it's not strike.
They're knocking something down. Exactly. If
Okay, I'm not very sportsy. So I'm like, I don't know. I've played a handful of times, but I do know about those bumpers.
Close enough.
Because I need those bumpers.
Yeah, sure.
If I'm going to even play the game, I need those bumpers.
Right.
I feel like that's what the department is doing instead of addressing the issue.
Except they're not. Here's the thing, except they're not. And they should know this. And I believe they do know it.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I do not believe them anymore that they don't know this. When I do drugs, what happens to me?
Oh.
I get high, right? And when I get high, I'm now what we call impaired.
Right.
And so once I bring my drugs out and then I use my drugs, right? I'm now not able to safely put them away.
Right.
Because I'm high and impaired, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea of a safe box where I'm going to do my drugs and then in this quick minute before all the drugs kick in, I'm going to get them all put away safely. That doesn't happen.
That's exactly my train of thought when I was hearing this.
It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. I'm familiar with a situation in which the safety plan was that the two addict parents would agree to take turns using drugs.
Insane.
Apparently, and so you're left with this sort of thing, right? But we're left with this idea that apparently these folks don't know how drug use and addiction actually works in the real world, right? Do you believe that? Do you believe that the folks that are advocating for safe boxes,
you're right,
or for alternating use really don't know how drug addiction and drug use works in the real world? Because I don't believe that anymore.
I don't either.
Exactly.
It's called TV. Like phones, we see it. The information is right at our fingertips.
Right. And so so that means what we're left with is an analysis that says, no, it's just that our consciences are becoming seared.
Yeah. Yeah. My goodness.
Because they're human beings.
Right. Right.
And so if it was their child and their grandchild at stake, would they be okay with the safe box?
Right.
Probably not.
No, they would not.
But it's other people's, right?
Right.
And so
dehumanizing.
And so this is my great worry. My great worry is that we are becoming a people where our own consciences are damaged because we've had to drive past broken people that are just left to die right in front of us for decades now.
Yeah.
And we've learned to tune out the problems and just tell ourselves junk. Like,
Yeah.
well, we'll give them safe boxes or whatever,
Right.
so that we can sleep at night
Right.
until we can,
Mhm.
without apology and without backing down,
Mhm.
say, yes, they're like giving children to parents is better if possible. If possible, right?
Right.
If it's possible to give them to parents,
Mhm.
one of each sex, as a matter of fact, like we know that's better for children if possible.
If
It's not
possible.
always possible, but if it's possible, we
Right.
should,
Right.
right? If it's possible, giving those children parents that stay married to each other
Right.
is better. Like we know that. Like, we have the data, right?
Impossible.
If possible, right?
Right.
It's not always possible,
Right.
but if it is possible, we should strive for that.
Mhm.
If it's possible, we should address substance use and addiction in the home, because a whole bunch of other things break down when people are not fully, when people are impaired, right? They can't protect their children from
No.
sexual predators, for example.
No.
They make different and worse decisions, and so if it's possible to address that, we should, and that starts with the person themselves. If it's possible,
It does.
I should address it. If I'm that person, right?
Right.
And as a community with a conscience, like we should support that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to help you
Right,
get
we
off
do.
so that you can be a better parent, right?
Yeah, be a whole person.
Exactly. And so like we're going to have to return, right? And we're going to have to do it unapologetically.
Yeah.
Of saying like what is at stake here is the question of,
Mhm.
are there some ways of living that are actually more harmful and worse
Yeah.
than other ways of living, particularly as it relates to the impact on children? Or is it all just systems of oppression, faceless systems of oppression, right? That's what we're faced with. And
Right.
what we've got to be able to say is, when you go to that second option, only bad things happen.
I know. I know. I feel like in the state of Washington, we're there, and a lot of our lawmakers and a lot of these people that are in Olympia championing for whatever they're championing for, they're bought into that idea. And once they start, they know what's going on, right? They know, but now they're so into this ideology that they can't back out.
Well, and also it's sort of self-reinforcing.
It really is. Yeah, it is.
So like, okay, maybe those are
rescuer.
behaviors that harm children,
Yes.
but it's only the fault of the systems of oppression. And if we
Right.
could get rid of the systems of oppression, then those people wouldn't behave that way, and then the children would be better.
That's another lie that I keep coming up against when as I'm researching more of, what's going on right now since I've been back the last 2 years, what's been happening on the ground with foster parents and everything. And what I'm hearing from like DCYF, not even just DCYF, a lot in the government, right? If we can just give the families the right tools, if we can just give them all the right things, they will make the right decision. That is a flat out lie.
Yeah, it's also deeply narcissistic.
Absolutely.
If we would just do for those poor, incapable people what we need to do for them, then they would be able to be better. What are they, houseplants?
Yeah.
Like if we would just play them classical music and make sure we water them correctly and give them enough sunshine, they would thrive.
No, these are humans.
Who do you think you are?
Right.
Narcissist?
Yeah. Yeah. The way you say things, it just like puts light bulbs in my brain. Like, yeah, just better ways to think. As I'm thinking, you say them like flat out, and I'm like, that's right.
Dude, when you spend 18 years hanging out with homeless people under bridges,
Right.
like it gets real.
Yeah.
It's just you just get real.
It
Like you end
does.
up in a place where and so my apologies, quote unquote, I'm sure that there are people who really mean well.
Absolutely.
In the system in DCYF that I've just called a system of oppression, right?
Right.
And you feel like I've just called you a narcissist. And
Right.
at one point earlier in this podcast, a terrible human being.
Right.
And like it's not personal. It's not personal. I don't know you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know you, right?
Yeah.
But like we have allowed ourselves to become bad people.
Yes.
And that's, and because it stokes our own narcissism to do it. Right? While at the same time letting us out of all the hard decisions, while at the same time alleviating us from having to say that there's some ways of living that are just better than other ways of living. And that lets us do whatever we want too. And, and all kinds of things, right? And the truth is that we've become bad people. And if we're going to have better outcomes for children, right, we're going to need better systems of intervention. And that means we're going to have to become better people.
We do. I feel so on the podcast, we are going to be interviewing a lady. She started keeping kids safe. And I remember having a conversation with her maybe 4 years ago when this is when B died as well, and all these different things. And she was calling me like, as fostering change.
I didn't know the rest of that story. You only brought me to the point where she came into the hospital.
Oh, she died. She died. Yeah. That little girl died. Yeah, she didn't even make it. Like, she died right there. They were trying to get her out to Children's, and she didn't make it. It was really disgusting. And what's really disgusting is that she was having failure to thrive this whole time. And the birth mother kept reaching back out to the foster parent and the social worker and says, she needs to go back to the foster family. She needs to go back because she was having failure to thrive. And so they wanted the foster mom to kind of come in a little bit, which she did. But then they kind of said, no more. And then nobody checked up on this little girl. She was tortured
to death,
starved.
Yeah.
Starved. So that took a long time to get to the weight she was. Tortured by burns and then raped. And who knows how many times. That is not okay. So when all this is going on, I talked to the lady that started the Keeping Kids Safe, and God and I were wrestling because I'm like, Lord, we got to make this stop. Like, what do we do? This can't happen. And the conclusion that me personally as a human came to that gave me peace was like, it's the ideologies that is what is happening right now. And until the system, which I say the system, till Washington State has a belly full of blood, which I believe they do now, I believe every citizen, once they find out about how many kids are dying, they have enough. There's a belly of blood right now. We have to make change. Like, it has to happen. We've had enough death that you can't, like I was telling you earlier, we couldn't get a reporter on this at all. They wouldn't touch me. They wouldn't call me back. They wouldn't. And it was like we were completely stonewalled. So I ended up telling, her name's Tracy. Tracy, right now, I don't think there's hope. I don't think there's hope until this state has a belly of blood on their hands. Belly of blood on their hands. Does that make any sense? Just
imagine. It's a mixed metaphor.
Okay. You got it. That's me. Sorry. Until they have enough blood on their hands where they're willing to do something about it. And when I say they, we are they. Right?
Right.
We are they. Like every listener, every viewer, we are they. Are we done? Are we sick of this? Are we willing to say no more?
Yeah.
We have to.
That's what happened to me when I first got into this work with homeless people.
Yeah.
I believed that God was sending me to go help people.
Yes.
And what ended up happening is like I saw all these little orphans inside these grown-up bodies, and now it's more than just, hey, I'm going to come help these people. It's like, this has become unacceptable to me.
It is.
And like that I can't, to whatever degree I can be a part of helping my community, not have classes of disposable people. I have to do it. Like, I have to do it.
You have to.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at too. Like, I would much rather be reading to my littles and enjoying my granddaughter and spending so much more time. But the fact is, this is on my watch, right? This is my children's future.
Yeah.
And this I don't want them to have this on their watch. And it's going to be on their watch. They're going to be our reinforcements. They're going to come in and demand change. But we cannot let this go on any further.
Yeah. I'm not an expert on the legislative process. So if at some point you interview a legislator, I'll want to watch that.
Absolutely.
Because like, what do you do with what is realistic or doable, right? From a legal point of view within Washington State. Like, I wonder if it's got to be like some citizen initiative or something,
I like that.
That I don't know. I wouldn't know how to write that law.
Right.
That's not what I've taken the time to expert myself in.
Right.
I've taken the time to expert myself in this,
Absolutely.
And so I know this much. And my hope is that, like, maybe this is a good way to end. If we can again become a people right? Who are willing to go into the house and take the kid because we can't abide the idea that we're just going to kill some kids along the way and everybody just deal with it, right? If we can become a people again who actually have consciences, and who care about the next generation enough, right, to save them, right, and then help the parents out, do all the stuff like help all this, exactly,
absolutely,
right. But if we can become a people again who can no longer put up with watching people die in the streets or in these parents' homes, we will become a better people.
Yes,
like we will be a better people because of it, right? And a better people will just have so many better things happening, right? Like we will be a much better place to live, and because we will become a better people. The society that we create as better people is going to be so much better in so many ways, right?
It is.
And that's my hope, is that my kids can grow up in and inherit a better Washington.
Absolutely. That's I think that's all of our hope,
right?
Really.
Because we've found our consciences again.
Yeah. That is a beautiful thing to think of, is if we all can open our eyes and find our consciences again. That's amazing. I think that's a great place to end. Thank you so much to our friends that are viewing this, that are watching this. I really appreciate it. So in the comments section, there are going to be a plethora of different platforms that we're going to be hosting this on. And I would really, really, really like it if you could go down there and hit subscribe, like, all of the things, share this with friends. We got to get this message out because we need something better. We need something better for our children, and not just our children. We need something better for the kids that are victims to this. We just have to. But yeah, again, please like, share, join us. We'll be here every other week with some new story to change the story, really. Yeah. Would you mind praying for us before we?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
This is going to be the moment where I actually turn and look in the camera and say, if you're watching this and prayer is not a part of your life and you're not sure how you feel about God, it would mean a lot to me if you would still stick with us for this. Just because as a Christian, one of the things that God calls us to do as a Christian, right, it is pray for other people, and because it helps us, right, be better people. And so even if you're not sure how you feel about God or how you feel about prayer, spending time thinking about the plight of others does make us better people. And so I want to ask you to stick with us anyway, and it'll be over soon, I promise. Father in heaven, you don't make disposable people. And you have called us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, to want for others what we would want for ourselves, to want for our neighbor's kids what we would want for our own kids. God, will you strengthen our conscience, please? Help us to be people who can't abide the mistreatment of children, who don't just shrug when we see people dying slowly in our own streets, who demand better for the sake of our own communities and those people in the distress. God, will you please help us become better people for the well-being of everyone involved? Strengthen our conscience, give us courage and the willingness to wade into this hard stuff and talk with people who think differently about us and have to grapple with all of that and really think through like why we believe what we believe about all of these things. And at the end of it all, God, will you help us to become a people who again understand that taking care of children is the first job of adults. So that we can give them a better place to live, so that they can grow up and inherit and steward a better place for their own children. God, help us become those people. We need your help. We need your help to be those people. On our own, we would probably chicken out on a lot of stuff, and because it's just easier. And so, God, will you fortify us and strengthen us for this calling to help us again regain our conscience as a people and make a better place by becoming better people. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. See, I promised it would be over soon.
I really appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Change the Story. If today's episode moved you, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share with friends. The more voices we unite, the stronger our call for change becomes. Until next time, let's stand together, putting our hope in the one who makes all things new, knowing that together we will change the story.